Happy NFL Week 13 for all who celebrate. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Duo Collectibles YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our daily NFL content. Also, please bookmark all future shows on Whatnot and TikTok Live so you don't miss any of our sports cards auctions. The Carolina Panthers pull the upset of the day at home against the 1 seed LA Rams 31-28. They're now half a game back behind Tampa for the NFC South. I mean, what a story in Carolina. If you told me that the Bucks would be that the Panthers would be sitting half a game behind the Bucks and we're about to hit December, I would have taken the under on that one for sure. I mean, Bryce Young, hell of a day today, 3 touchdowns. The defense played amazing. Couple big turnovers on Matthew Stafford, including a pick 6. Man, what a shocker. It just goes to show you it's why they play the games. The Rams came into this game looking like the best team in the NFC, possibly the best team in the NFL. You know, Matthew Stafford looked like the front runner for MVP. They come out early, throw a couple touchdown passes. Devontae Adams is a touchdown machine this year. And then next thing you know, the Panthers are getting big turnovers. Bryce Young's making plays. Chuba Hubbard's running the ball. You know, what a day by Jalen Coker. He's kind of come on lately. And I don't think the Panthers are necessarily a legitimate contender, but if you told me the Panthers would be 7-6, looking at a playoff berth in December, if you told me that in August, I would have called you crazy. So, credit to the Carolina Panthers. Credit to Bryce Young, too. He had some really rough years to start his career. He hasn't been a great quarterback, but he had a good day today. He had a very good day 3 weeks ago where he threw for over 400 yards. Just goes to show you, if you stick with it, you never know what you can be. I don't think he'll ever be a great quarterback, but if you're a Panthers fan, you got to be feeling really good. This is a scrappy team, and from where they've come in the years past, being in the absolute basement of the NFL with really no direction at all, to now be 7-6 and be a legitimate contender to win the NFC South. Hats off to you, Carolina. Hats off to you. I think Kyle Shanahan has made a real legitimate argument to be coach of the year this year. I know he probably won't get it because it generally goes to a team that vastly exceeds expectations. But what Kyle Shanahan has done this year might be his best coaching job. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are 9-4, just right out of first place in the NFC West, which is a really tough division this year. And they've lost a king's ransom worth of players. I mean, for starters, you lose Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, 2 of your best defensive players, 2 of the best defensive players in the NFL. You lose Brock Purdy, who you just paid $265 million to. You lose him for most of the season. I know he's been playing recently, but he's been gone most of the year. You lose George Kittle for a significant amount of time. You lose Jawan Jennings for a significant amount of time. Ricky Pearsall, their first-round pick from a couple of years ago, hasn't really played. Brandon Ayuk has been out all year, and that whole situation's been weird. Debo goes to the Commanders. So it's, their top essentially 4 receivers, their starting all-world tight end, their $265 million quarterback have all missed significant time. You lose your 2 best defensive players, and you're sitting here at 9-4. You steamroll the Cleveland Browns 26-8 today, and you're right in the thick of things in the NFC West. You make Mac Jones a ton of money this offseason. I know he's still under contract, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams calling to trade for Mac Jones, and they might not be able to turn him down. All I'm saying is Kyle Shanahan deserves a lot of credit for steering the ship and keeping them on, not only keeping them on course, but keeping them right in playoff contention. A lot of organizations will use massive injuries like that as an excuse to have a down year. The San Francisco 49ers surely have not. That's a big win on the road against a really good defense in Cleveland. And then again, same old story for the Browns, right? The defense plays pretty well. Offense just can't get anything going. Kind of a rough day for Shedeur. He had I think it was a 4th and 25, and he scrambled for 6 yards and slid. Kind of a microcosm of his day. And then, of course, making it about himself in the post game, he's yelling at reporters for the questions that they're asking. Once again, the Cleveland Browns are a circus, and Shedeur is just their latest clown in the middle of it all. The Houston Texans defense is for real. They had an amazing performance today against the Colts. They win a tough game, 20-16. That's 4 in a row now, and Houston started 0-3. They've gone 7-2 since, and now they're right in the thick of things, a game behind Jacksonville and in Indianapolis for the NFC South. All of a sudden, the NFC South is an extremely competitive division. But this Texans defense is so good. I mean, we're seeing Will Anderson really turn into that all-pro level edge rusher that they hoped for when they drafted him. He's had a good start to his career, but he's really, really ascended to kind of that superstar level. You still have Danielle Hunter on the other side playing amazing football. Sheldon Rankins in the middle. Azeez Al-Shaair, I know he's a controversial guy with some of the late hits and the way he plays, but man, I'd love to be in a foxhole with him, and the way he plays in the middle of that field is such a tone setter. Then you have Derek Stingley and Lassiter in coverage, and it's looking like a championship defense. D'Amico Ryans, that's kind of his MO as a coach, is that middle of the field leader, tone setter type of guy, and that's exactly the way his defense plays. CJ Stroud, after an amazing rookie year, has almost kind of become a passenger on this team. He's playing pretty well, but he certainly doesn't look like rookie year CJ Stroud. But that defense is good enough to take them as far as they want to go. They still have Nico Collins, looks like a true wide receiver 1, and don't look now, but Jaden Higgins, their draft pick this year out of Iowa State, he's starting to play really well. They can run the ball with Woody Marks. It's a team that, they have not been talked about very much recently. But I'd keep an eye on the Houston Texans, especially in the AFC, where there's really no clear-cut favorite, no team that you would trust right now. Teams like the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills are kind of having down years, and teams like the Broncos and the Colts and my Patriots having great seasons, but really haven't proven anything. So there's absolutely no reason why this Texans team can't stay hot and can't ride this defense as far as they'll take them. Duval! That's how the season started for Liam Cohen, and it didn't look great, but don't look now. Winners of 4 of their last 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars, are in first place in the AFC South. Hey, I don't know if the Jaguars are good. It's a team that I have never really seen play well in my life, other than a couple times making the AFC title game against my Patriots. But for the most part, it's a franchise that is not to be trusted. But man, Trevor Lawrence is playing really well. Travis Etienne's running the ball pretty well again. Their defense is playing great. They're sitting there at 8-4. They still have two big games against the Colts, who they're currently tied with in the AFC South for first place. But hey, this Jacksonville team is scrappy, man. They are a team that they make the addition of Jacoby Myers at the trade deadline, who's a hell of a receiver. If they can get Brian Thomas healthy, playing at any level like he was last year, there's no reason they can't win the AFC South. And again, the AFC, kind of a mishmash of teams right now. No one's really the clear favorite in the AFC. So I don't think it's crazy to call the Jaguars good and a team that could possibly contend for the AFC South and for the AFC in general. Duval. The Arizona Cardinals have been an NFL franchise since 1920, and they've made the playoffs 12 times. What does that have to do with their loss to the Bucks today? Absolutely nothing. But I think the Cardinals need to be talked about as one of the worst franchises, not only in the NFL, but in all of sports. We always talk about the Browns and the Lions before the last couple of years, and the Jets and the Raiders as some of the worst franchises in the NFL. 12 playoff appearances since 1920 can't go unsaid any longer. So congratulations to the Bucks. You're holding on to first place in the NFC South. But man, just another terrible year from the Cardinals. One of the worst franchises in sports that does not get talked about. 12 playoff appearances since 1920. Yikes. Devon Achane is a beast, and the Saints are as bad as we thought they were. Bijan Robinson is a beast, and the Jets are as bad as we thought they were. Kamani Vidal is a beast, and the Raiders are a lot worse than we thought they were. This might be the end for old Pete Carroll. A lot of rumors floating around that, with him having to fire two coordinators, his job is really on the hot seat. It's sad. You just give Geno Smith a big contract. You draft Ashton Genty 6th overall, and he definitely hasn't lived up to that billing. Down year for Brock Bowers after suffering a knee injury week 1. And Max Crosby is just kind of out there in the desert, left thinking, am I ever going to be on a contender? James Cook is a beast. And the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, the clock is looking like it's striking midnight. They fall to 6-6. They have the Ravens right on their heels, even after a bad loss on Thanksgiving. But the real story is Buffalo's offense getting going in the second half. They really open it up 27-6 today. James Cook rushes 32 times for 144 yards and adds 33 yards receiving. Kind of a down day from Josh Allen, but I think a lot of that can be chalked up to his supporting cast. It just hasn't been very good. Obviously Keon Coleman has been a complete bust as a first round receiver. Dalton Kincaid as a first round tight end. He's a decent player, but not even close to worth a first round pick. Khalil Shakir is kind of more of a possession receiver, a wide receiver 3 type of guy. So it'll be interesting to see what Buffalo can do in the playoffs or down the stretch here. It's looked clunky. It hasn't looked great. They're 8-4. They got a big game coming up against the Bengals and Joe Burrow next week, and then they go to New England trying to avenge their loss from week 4 at home against them earlier in the year. So, 2 big tests for Buffalo coming up, and Pittsburgh. Things are not looking great. Rodgers got banged up today. He came back in the game, but they've kind of looked like a directionless team really ever since Roethlisberger left. I mean, Mike Tomlin always has them in contention, right? His whole thing is he's never had a season below 500. And, I don't doubt if they get to 9 wins this year, but that's kind of where they're living right now. They're just the Pittsburgh Steelers they live in NFL purgatory. They're 9-8, 10-7. Maybe they get in the playoffs, first round exit. They haven't really made a run in years. The last I remember is a AFC title game appearance against the Patriots back in 2016 or 7. I think it was 16 or 17. But basically, since Ben has left, that's kind of what they've been. They run the ball pretty well overall. They play good defense, but they can't really get quarterback figured out. Rodgers, he's still a pretty good player, but completely over the hill at this point. And I can't say I blame him. He's 40, 41 years old. That DK Metcalf signing is very weird at this point. They don't really seem to know how to use him. He only has 3 catches for 32 yards today. So, again, they're never really a team that bottoms out. They're never going to be like a 4, 5, 6 win team. They just love to live in that middle of the NFL. The train is completely off the tracks for the Minnesota Vikings. And, this just goes to show you what happens when you completely whiff on a first round quarterback. I think more concerning than JJ McCarthy's play on the field is just the fact that he can't seem to stay on the field. I mean, the guy is clinging to life support to keep his job, and he reports concussion symptoms on the way home. I don't know how anyone in that locker room can respect him at this point. Even worse than that, you have a report from Adam Schefter today talking about Max Brosmer is the Vikings' secret weapon, and he goes out and throws 4 picks and also doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. So tough times for the Minnesota Vikings. I do think they have a really good team still. I think their defense is very good. If Brian Flores stays, that shouldn't change. They have a lot of really good players on that side of the ball. I still think Kevin O'Connell is a brilliant offensive mind. You have Justin Jefferson, who's still one of the best receivers in the league. Jordan Addison's still a very good number 2. You should get Christian Darrisaw healthy next year. So you have the pillars on offense at playmakers and at left tackle. They just have to get quarterback figured out. But that's been the same story for the Minnesota Vikings basically for my whole life. The Minnesota Vikings really seem like a team that's destined to be in the NFL's good tier. They're never a great team, and that's just where they seem to want to fall.